Um, Welcome, everybody. I'm Ruxana Zia from Center of Learning and Teaching. Fatma read out the netiquettes, and the person behind the scenes who will coordinate the event. And Asma put up the list of questions and put these to you for your, so you don't have to worry about looking at to worry about the chat. And so Zarek will take care of that. So you just concentrate on your talk. The purpose of the series is to establish a collaborative community of scholars for peer sharing and learning. The free part is for wider access, and knowledge equity is aptly demonstrated by our experts who have generously given of their time and energy, and we are very thankful to them. We have developed this course to synchronize with the Researcher Development Framework by Vitae, but that framework changed in 2025. So at present, our course is aligned with the domains of researcher values, behaviors, research methods, ethical and responsible research, scholarly communication and publication, and collaborative research culture. It offers limited coverage of funding and finance. We had one session of grant and funding proposals yesterday, so that was a small component. A formal, with a very limited formal project management, supervision and people management, coaching and mentoring, research, translation, and commercialization. These have a limited coverage or none at all. This course honors our FCC values of service to community. We had 8,500 registrations for this session from 400 international and 230 national universities, and spanning some 93 countries. Agenda, Asma will very shortly go through it, what she's going to talk about. But I'm very, very honored to have Asma Salman with us. She's the Vice President for Research and Professor of Finance at the American University in Emirates, Dubai. And she leads the university's research strategy, scholarly output, and international research collaboration. Her research focuses on the intersection of finance, emerging technologies, sustainable economic systems, with emphasis on fintech, which I have no clue about, blockchain applications, digital transformation, and innovation-driven economic development. You hold a PhD in finance from Harbin Institute of Technology, China. I'm sure that's one of the best, and an MBA in finance and accounting. So we welcome you, and we're very, very happy to have you with us. So you can share your, and may I say one last word for our participants? I'm going to use the word you pester us for certificates. Please note that the certificates have a certain timeline, and if your name is properly noted, your email is properly registered on your registration form, you will definitely get your certificate in time. So please do not keep asking questions about certificates. Over to you, Asma.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Ruxana. It's always a pleasure being here. Thank you for your kind invitation and congratulations for all what you do. Holding such webinars through an international expertise spanning so many countries you've mentioned, and also being part of the Higher Education Commission in itself it's truly rewarding, I'm sure, for you, and it's an excellent opportunity for the novice researchers and even the experienced ones with all the changes that we see. So once again, thank you so much. I'm really humbled with your kind introduction and invitation. So with this, I would like to welcome all the participants. I'm very, very happy to be here. My name is Asma Salman. I am the Vice President for Research at the American University in the Emirates, where I've been affiliated for the past 15 years. Of course, I'm originally from Pakistan. I've got a very nice army background. Both my parents were in the Pakistan Army. So I have been, of course, traveling around the world. I did my degree from China and then from UK, and here I am in Dubai. Very, very happy to meet virtually all these scholars, the researchers, the upcoming, supervisors. I think this is such a good step in the right direction, very much needed at every stage. So again, I really, hats off to CLT and the Foreman Christian College for that. Today, we will be going through some of the editorial excellence strategies for peer review and editing. So I'm sure all of us in our research journey, or simply for being an academic, whether it is being an administrator, whether it is being from, pure academic side, teaching, research, and so on. I think we all go through the research, peer review, the editing part, and how we can make it better. Let's see what has changed over the years and how we are going to take those strategies into account, maybe learn from a little bit of best practices, and also learn from all of you what you might have been dealing with and what you may think would be, a practical strategy, especially given we are now in the world of AI. So the question is, are we feeding the AI, or is AI feeding us back, or it's like a catch 22? Let's delve a little bit deeper into that. So what we'll cover today is, why does editorial excellence matter? What are the ethical responsibilities? How can we have a strong review report? What are the common pitfalls? And of course, the AI tools, and then some practical takeaways. So we have seen a very much a precedented, a very increase in having different review capacities, reviewer capacities in the recent years. And what I really mean with that although the global research is increasing, there is a huge question mark on peer review. We have seen retractions being increased over the number of years, AI being used when we already signed that we will not be using AI. And also sometimes the other hat, which is the reviewer, is the fatigue for the reviewer. Of course, these are all community-based volunteer services. And the question then comes that, are we feeding the right researchers, or are we just ticking the box? So we want to come up with certain criteria which can help us in our work when we do editorial services. Of course, we want to have really a fair view of all the editorial practices. We want to have a reputation of a good reviewer. We also want to ensure that the integrity part is being taken care of. And of course, all of that feeds into your reputation. It's a shared responsibility between the author, the reviewer, and the editor. So the originality, the clarity, the honesty, the integrity in completing and reporting the work. So to ensure that the data is not manipulated, that you have already signed a couple of forms mentioning what you have or have not included in your research article. And same then flips over to the reviewer. Is it being rigorous, or have I just written one small line? Oh, the paper could be better. Or are we giving something substantial as a reviewer, which is a specific and constructive feedback back to the author? Because, there are a lot of, sometimes we all face this information. We write something, one reviewer says to change that, we go ahead and change it, we come back, another reviewer brings us back to square one. The editorial responsibility includes quite a lot of these processes, timelines, and of course, a sound final judgment of what the reviewer is saying. Based on that, the editor would make the final decision. So let's have this like already our from CTL, we already know that you would be able to give your responses in the chat. So please feel free to do that whenever you can. Which hat do you wear most often? Is it the author? I mostly write and submit manuscripts? Is it the reviewer? I mostly evaluate other people's work. Now, let me hold on to this thought for a moment. Being a reviewer is a tough job. Now, you have to be objective when you're doing a review. You have to be constructive during a review. And you have to be completely professional, which is non-judgmental, non-personal review. From the very much perspective of what the main content is being talked about, your review can go around that. It's a tough job, but it also requires a rigor and it also requires objective viewpoint. Editor, so what's your role mostly? I handle manuscripts and make decisions, or all three of them often in the same month. So please feel free to write A, B, C, or D in the chat, and we'll come back to that later by the end. Let's touch upon probably the single most responsible, accountable framework, which is related to ethics and research integrity. This is a shared principle that protects our scholarly record and also that of the institution, the journal, the conference series, the editorial, you as a researcher, everything around it. Now, before I go ahead into that, what are the principles for every manuscript? You may have noticed, and maybe later on you can mention or ask questions or put that into a discussion format, there has been an increase in the ethical approval letters for all the, I would say, really the most cited top journals around the world. In my position as the VPR, I also chair something called an IRB, which is an institutional review board. Now, what the review board does is gives ethical approval letters to people in my faculty who would come up and do a particular research. Now, bear in mind, it does not have to be based on surveys, on results, on just primary research. Nowadays, the journals demand also a letter saying why this particular research does not require an IRB approval. So there are many things that are being changed, updated around the world, and we want to make sure that all of what we are doing into a research has been approved for data collection, etc., before starting the study. Now, in no ways that I'm saying that this is a longer process, but for universities, this is an eye-opener that faculty members who are engaged into research activities do very much require time. I think this is an underlying point also, the seriousness of it. The journals now no longer just require an ethical approval if you have a primary research, even for doctrines, even for research that has no primary data, they would require a similar kind of a letter from your ethics committee or something that we call institutional review board, which acts as the ethical committee for the institution. So let's see what are the 5 basic principles that each manuscript that we are writing should honor. Of course, your ideas should be original and the data should be the author's own, or you should disclose and cite where you're taking that data from. Usually, in some journals, you also have to submit that data, or you have to link that data, or that data, if it is publicly available, that you need to mention that. How you've curated that, you need to mention that. Again, the understanding of time factor plays a huge role in doing so. Because in all of this, not only you are writing a research article for yourself, it elevates your institution's reputation, it elevates the overall accreditation body's reputation, and in the end, of course, as a whole, for the country. So honest reporting, no fabrication, no falsification of any data methods or results, fair authorship. And we've seen that recently, we need to be sure who has made a substantive contribution and is credited, no more, no less. I can give you an example that can be used while you're doing such kind of research within your institutions, within your universities. What you can really do, if you're doing a research, let's say Dr. Roxana is doing a research with me, and we are collecting data. From the beginning, we can make a very short 2-page agreement signed by counterparts from each university, and we can agree this is for 2 years, 3 years. We will produce 2 or 3 articles in this time. Who will be responsible for what? It's a good agreement, non-financial binding agreement between 2 institutions, between 2 researchers, or 2 or more, and then you could keep that as your document. That contributes to the fair authorship. That also says that the people responsible from both institutions have signed off, the senior people already have signed off, they are aware of such research happening. So research is no longer where we're going to say that, okay, I have to produce 2 articles, scopus articles in a year, which is the a requirement at my university. So each faculty member does publish 2 research articles in a year, in an academic year. It's no longer just giving that at the end of the academic year. It's an entire process that is demanding the same framework which teaching demands throughout the year. That's why I really do appreciate what Dr. Roxana and her team are doing in relation to having such awareness sessions, because it's no longer the end of the year requirement. It's a throughout the year process. You need to disclose any conflict of interests, and also please do not duplicate or have redundant publications of the same findings. There is something called the Salami slicing that I will talk about next, but these are your 5 basic principles every researcher should do. You can do many things. You can do documentation, you can come out with results, but at the end of the day, internally, each person, each researcher is responsible for their own. Some of the red flags that comes in ethics by roles. For authors, image or data manipulation. It has become increasingly difficult with the use of AI tools. Now, AI tools are brilliant, excellent. We have policies around them for what we can and cannot do at our institution, but most of them are very feed-forward approach driven, which means that you are free to use an AI tool as long as you are disclosing what you're doing with that. And I think that that's pretty fair. And it actually helps because the use and implementation of AI is increasing by the day, by the hour. So we really can't predict what will happen in a couple of years, but we can surely have an idea of what we can disclose as of now so that it has no negative implications in the years to come. I was talking about salami slicing, which means one study and dividing it into different papers. Okay, I have this data set, I got this result. Let me put this result, part of it in one paper, this part into the other paper, this part into the third paper. Don't do that, please. I will share with you, I also used to chair the promotion committee at my university for about 3 years. And, the usual process is to send the dossiers outside the country to different researchers, right? And we had problem with few of our researchers who had this point of salami slicing. It doesn't help the author. It doesn't help the researcher. So please, there is a difference between when you're replicating a study, or there's a difference between when you keep putting slices into different papers. So make sure that, whatever is an intended work within the paper is actually part of the manuscript. So to avoid such red flags. In this day and age, any research that you do definitely would go through many rounds of rigorous reviews. And they will also get to know what kind of researcher you are. So the responsibility, if I may say, has increased on the researcher. No ghost or guest authorships. Reviewers appropriating unpublished ideas. Don't take the idea of one person that, you're doing a blind review and you're like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me do that first and let's delay the review of this researcher. So the ethical contributions and the ethical framework in which we operate, we need to be self-aware that we are not harming our researchers or the people whom we are performing the reviews for. Biased or reckless recommendations that, they've given you something which is a great outcome, but you want to have something so difficult that no researcher will be able to do. So don't be reckless in your recommendations. And no breaching of manuscript confidentiality. These days, the footprint that we have on the internet, on the digital media is so vast that it would be good that we make sure that no such breach unintentionally would ever happen also. Let's come to the decision makers here, the editors who would be taking a decision based on the reviewers. Undisclosed conflicts in handling decisions. So if you know somebody and the paper belongs to a person you are affiliated with, please disclose so that you are removed from handling such decisions. No favoritisms and no ignoring of integrity concerns. If there is an integrity issue, even if you think that it may or may not affect the work, it is very much required that it gets reported. Let's see what would be the practical ethics checklist. Before you're submitting or reviewing or making a decision, keep these 5 points in mind. Have the data and the sources been cited? Every author's contribution is real, substantial. Conflicts have been disclosed. Decision is fair if the identities were reversed, and whether or not this manuscript submitted to one venue at a time. Now, many of the researchers, because maybe there is a time bar, or maybe they are novice researchers, they are student researchers, they have not been through this understanding, do not submit your paper to more than one venue. So if you've submitted your paper, you need to wait for the review. If you want to submit to another journal, please retract your paper from that journal first, mentioning I no longer, depending upon the policy of the journal, that I don't no longer want my article to be reviewed, etc. Please remember to read all the journal guidelines. They are very explicit, much more than before, and they would literally guide you of what can and cannot be done. So it is important to go through that. Sometimes they also have a time bar. Of course, I'm going to flip the hat and go to the reviewer side in a bit. And that will be very helpful for you to understand why my paper got accepted or rejected or revision and so on and so forth. Let's now go towards the reviewer side, as I explained to you earlier. We want to understand what constitutes a strong review report. Yes, all of us are busy. We have tons of different things to do. But as a researcher, as an academic, if you are submitting a review report, make sure that it has actionable feedback. It's not a not applicable thing and then you can move on to the next one. It is always important, consider this. This is your paper, you're reviewing it, and it will ultimately go to the editor, and the editor will make a decision based on this review report. Or some parts of this review report will be so substantial for the editor to make such a distinction of acceptance or rejection. Now, let's see what are those components for a strong review report. I'm sure many of you do that all the time. let's go through it and see what might constitute as a best practice. So restate what is the aim and the approach in your own words. This will make you understand whether you understood it or not. Now, I'll just put a question while I'm doing so, and please feel free to use the chat for that. Do all of you use AI in one way or the other? AI tools, which ones are they, and how have they helped you? The reason that I put this question up forth is here we want to understand that, do we understand the question or not? Do we understand the research criteria, the questions, what is being researched about, what is the main scope or not? Sometimes we're doing multitasking, we're doing too many things at the same time, and we are missing the main point. So that's why it is important to know, do we understand this particular article that we are reviewing or not? What is the overall assessment? State the significance of the work, the soundness of the work, before diving into detail. You can also have some major comments. You can have some substantive issues tied to specific sections, methods, evidence, and interpretation. So you're just summarizing what you have read. You're trying to see one or two good points, and you think they are so substantial, so good in nature. And then you're going to number them, have some minor comments, and then recommend accept with revisions, minor, major, or a simple reject. So this is your anatomy of a strong review report. You may have better ones, and that's completely fine. I'm just sharing with you what you can break it down in, and then do your assessment review accordingly. Remember that usually in some of the journals, they are very much detailed in nature. They would want you to give some comments, attach your own Word document, etc. Some of them are very minimalistic in nature. Some of them would actually ask you how much have they added into the literature review, etc. So be wary of that. But you can go through this overall assessment if it fits you. Some do's and don'ts when it comes to constructive comments. You should not be general. You should be specific. You can say that page number this, or the figure number 1, or whatever you are doing in a literature review if you don't think they are enough, or you don't think they are current in nature, etc. You must explain each concern. Explain the why part of it. You can't simply say this is a weak argument. If it is a weak argument, you must explain why you think this is a weak argument. Separate the major ones from the minor ones, like we mentioned before. You can also suggest a possible path for improvement, and also start by actually accepting the genuine strengths of the manuscript. Don't use any sarcastic or personal language. Be very professional in your approach in doing so. Don't be vague. Do review within your area of expertise. Don't accept if this is not your area of expertise. Recommend a decision your comments don't support. So there are certain things that you can do, and then there's certain things that you should not put yourself in that situation. Now let's take a simple example, something that I mentioned just moments ago, that when you say the methodology section is unclear and needs work, it's very general. It doesn't add any value. It doesn't tell me what I'm supposed to do. I submitted my paper and I've received a comment, the methodology section is weak. Now, if you say it according to this, so the methodology section, page 4, 5, 10, whatever, does not report how the sample size was calculated. Please clarify the basis for the sample size so readers can judge the study's statistical power. It's a simple line, but it's telling the why in your comment. We, like I said, we are free to pass our judgment in terms of professional criteria, but we cannot be judgmental in terms of something you don't like. You need to put the reason why you think, from a reader's perspective, your readers in your journal may not be conclusive by reading this article. So you're trying to give a very professional judgment, a professional overview of your comments. Now, whatever the final result may be, it is important that the comments that are given are constructive in nature. Sometimes faculty members, all of us, we have been in such situations. We've received back and forth a lot of comments, and in the end, we also received a rejection. I had one of the articles back in the day, I think probably 10 years ago, 8 years ago. It went through 7 rounds of revision. In the end, I had literally given up that it will not find, a particular journal or an avenue where I can publish. It became one of my most cited articles in the end. It went through so many iterations, but it made the article stronger. One more point, when you are the reviewer, do consider how the interpretation for your review will be done by the author. So be clear in doing so they can address your comments. Sometimes they also become frustrated, myself included, when we don't have clarity in the review. When we don't have the clarity in the review, we can't necessarily go back to the reviewer and say that, oh, you were not clear, because we are coming from a viewpoint where we are wanting to receive the comments and also get our paper published. Now, feel free to do that. You can write it in the chat for me. This is your turn. I'll give you about 60 seconds to fix this weak comment. The literature review is outdated and the results are not convincing. Now, usually you need to locate which part, which section, which figure, see the problem, and ask for an actionable change. We'll put some results in the end. I'll wait for a few seconds and feel free. What I'm really looking for from all of you, or any one of you who would like to put this into the chat, how can we make this weak comment stronger? The literature review is outdated and the results are not convincing. So a couple of points you can take into consideration are given below. I'll wait for a few seconds. I'm also wary of the time. I think we're good. And then in a few seconds, I'll move further. Actionable change is probably one of the most important things that you can put into a comment. So please make sure that you're doing that while writing your feedback. I'll move ahead and we'll come back to these towards the end. Let's see some common editorial pitfalls and fixes, how we can have some practical results, some remedies for top manuscript pitfalls and the quick fixes that are there. Some pitfalls: overloaded abstract. Why it hurts? Because it misses the main point. The actual contribution gets buried down below. And how we can fix that is to state the gap, the method, the finding in 3 sentences. So I'm not saying your abstract is 3 sentences. I'm mentioning where the overload of your abstract is. So if you're making an actual contribution, which I'm sure you are, you need to state the gap, the method, and finding. And once you have already given a background before coming to the main point in your abstract. So some abstracts, some journals are very particular. Emerald journals are very particular. They have a particular, heading set into the abstract as well. Some journals are a little bit more flexible and they give you some number of words. Some are even more, they have a general outline, but nothing specific. But the rule of thumb is don't overload your abstract to bury your main contribution. Thin literature framing, reviewers can't judge novelty. So if you have something that has come out as really novel contribution, make sure that you have taken the closest match, the recent match to whatever you are framing as being novel and different. So please make sure that you have positioned it against some of the closest studies. Then your reviewer will immediately catch this, why this is different and better than whatever they have seen before. Remember, your reviewers in the same area have also read the studies like you. So they are well aware of what is going on and how this might be different than whatever they have seen before. Inconsistent citation style, please take care of that. Overclaiming conclusions. So your conclusion should match what your study is. If you keep going into too many details stating that we still need more work and the next study should do this, this, and this, and it overclaims whatever your conclusion is, then you're making yourself look weaker. So make sure that the claims are so matched to the study. And even if it is a way forward, it is something that is going to take this study forward. So every claim should be matched and make sure your credibility is not undermined. Okay. So which pitfall do you see most in your field? Overloaded abstracts, thin literature, inconsistent citations, or conclusions that are so wow in nature, but they are beyond what your study is. So feel free to write A, B, C, or D as you feel appropriate into the chat box related to the pitfalls. How we can process these from the editor's side? Ad hoc invitations lead to mismatched expertise and uneven review quality. So it is important that the reviewer selection should not be inconsistent. You know, each of, whether it is Springer, whether it is Emerald, Elsevier, Scopus, etc., Web of Science, ABS, they have this huge database with the matching expertise of each reviewer. So it is important that the editor actually is consistent with reviewer selection. I think this is the single most important thing because it will help the reviewer in the end. So it is important to do that. Then the slow turnaround, unclear deadlines, unfollowed reminders. You sent a reminder, nobody responded back. You forgot about it as a reviewer, as an editor. And then you're coming back 2 months later, you have already burnt the idea, people are waiting, frustrations are at the peak. So the editor's role becomes so much important. Unclear decision letters. There is a feedback, it doesn't explain well, there is no appeal process. So these are some of the process pitfalls, which I think are so so common and easily avoidable. So if you're taking an editorial role, I'll come back to the time part. If you're taking an editorial role, so please make sure you have the time to justice that, because it is going to have a ripple effect on the publication, on the journal, on the timelines, on the research. If you're doing a research which is so important, real time, maybe it is in technology, maybe it is in medicine, and if the time has passed, it may become redundant. So I think the time plays a huge factor from the journal's perspective in getting it published, and also from the editorial perspective where you have taken this role, and from the university perspective to have that release time in doing such research. We talked a little bit about the AI tools and the future of editing. So let's see where AI can actually help and we can use it responsibly, and where it can become a little bit of, problematic issue or a challenge for us. I did ask this question right at the beginning. AI in your editorial work, honestly, I use it regularly and disclose it. I use it sometimes, but I'm not really sure what to disclose. I tried it, but I don't really like it. I haven't used it in my writing or reviewing yet. So please do respond with A, B, C, or D for the questions related to AI in your editorial work. And how you disclose it, I'll be very interested to find that. Where AI is really helping? Similarity detection. Yes, if you are using any similarity detection software, whether it is Turnitin or whether it is Authenticate, etc., there are many more. They can help with similarity, which is of course a very much thing needed for any assessments as teachers, professors, or for our own work. Language polishing, yes, if you're using Grammarly, which is very, very common, it's an AI tool. So if you have downloaded that into your Outlook or into your Word document, etc., that's a use of AI, isn't it? So that helps with your language polishing for non-native English writers. I mean, most of us are. I'm a non-native English writer as well, so that can be helpful. Then the reviewer match, like I mentioned, some algorithms help editors identify reviewers whose expertise fits the manuscript. That's great. If any one of you or the universities have subscribed to Scopus AI, then that is also one way of seeing if your particular topic that you are writing on or you want to write on, that can also match you with those reviewers, those researchers that can help you manyfold, as a being a reviewer, maybe an examiner, and also in your own topic as a researcher or collaborator. Integrity screening. Image and statistics integrity tools flag anomalies for human follow-up. So let's say you have some image detection you want to do. AI tools can help you understand that, where that was taken, whether this thing really exists or not, and in different kind of creative arts can be very helpful as well. So AI has such many different faces that you can actually use to really help you achieve your goal. Using AI responsibly, these are four main guiding points or guardrails worth building into your own practice. Always, almost always disclose AI use. Follow the journal's policy on declaring AI-assisted writing or editing. You can be very clear on that. You can research about it. What is the best way to disclose your AI? And I can give you a tip over here. Your journal at which you are going to publish is also going to give you some feedback or their own policy about AI. If that matches your own disclosure, you can go ahead with that. If you are confused and need some more information, then please feel free to get in touch with the journal or the conference proceedings, etc., or the books themselves. Protect confidentiality. Never upload an unpublished manuscript into a public AI tool. Please don't do that. It's almost like you have somebody's very hard work in your hands, and you can't put that into a public tool. You need to protect the confidentiality. We all sign off on confidentiality matters when we are reviewing. So please take care of this. This can backfire on the reviewers, on the authors, on the editors. Keeps human in charge? Yes, absolutely. AI can draft. The final editorial judgment stays human, for sure. There are many organizations who came up with this idea of replacement, and we've seen them hiring back the humans because of the also the financial obligations, but that's a topic for another day. So keep humans in charge. Make sure you're reading it. Make sure you're verifying it. Make sure the judgment is exactly what you wanted to write. Verify, don't trust blindly. AI output can be biased, simply wrong. Check it before you rely on it. Absolutely. Some practical takeaways by roles for authors: frame the gap and contribution upfront. Don't let it bury down. Match every claim to your evidence in your conclusions. Disclose conflicts and AI assistance. For the reviewers, separate major from minor comments. Cite and give a practical judgment and a practical recommendation. Decline always the reviews that where your expertise is not there. For the editors, set and enforce clear timelines. Explain the reasoning. Don't let it be general, where authors do not know how to fix them. And be transparent in an appeals process. This will help your role, the journal's credibility, and the author's work. So it's a protection for each role, each category. Just a last closing activity, one commitment. So as an author, reviewer, or editor, you can put one commitment, what you will do. So this month, as an author or reviewer or editor, I will do so and so. You can have, you will state the gap, like we mentioned, to the contribution. I will review using this and that. I will put the major and minor comments separately. I will not use the AI tools for a manuscript, or I will disclose the use of AI tools. And also, I will not be too general. I'll be specific. And the confidentiality matters and the ethics matters that I mentioned ahead. I'm sure you all are using that or doing that. This is just kind of a reaffirmation of what we also do as academics. As an editor, to explain the reasoning, just not say that, oh, you know what, this is your article has been declined or rejected or whatever have you. This is important to tell the reason why, because the same author will take those comments and complete the changes on their manuscripts and probably going to submit elsewhere. So this is very important going forward. So yeah, one comment for this last activity for your commitment in the chat box would be very, very helpful. So I will leave it here and thank you very much. I'm open to questions.
Yeah, Asma, I must comment here on the clarity of your delivery, on the clarity of the slides, and on the interactivity that you built into the session. Unfortunately, with 500 plus participants, we could not open the chat, and that interactivity was kind of lost along the way. But I'm sure we're very, very thankful for what a remarkable session. Zarik, please, if you have the questions, I could see some along the way.
So the first question we have is from Dr. Muhammad Naeem Server, who is joining us from University of Education in Lahore. He asks, what practical mechanisms actually work to counter reviewer bias against authors who are from under-resourced institutions or who are non-native English speakers, which is beyond blind review?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for that question. And I think that we all have been somehow facing some such kind of a reviewer bias. Some of the journals that are doing one activity, which I do commend them on doing so, they also ask you for a reviewer list. In doing so, you can definitely, mention a diversity of people that can help review your article. Again, I'm not saying to go into any kind of conflict, which says that, okay, this is my friend or whatever have you, or you have papers with that particular colleague. But you can definitely use this opportunity while you're doing that. Sometimes I think the onus also comes to the faculty member, but primarily it is on the editorial work. There are some journals that were flagged for that. and they subsequently came out with certain diversity, equity, inclusion guidelines. And if you review them, then you can always counter your appeal based on that. But it is so, the bias is such a thing which, even if we want to give guidelines, it depends on the person himself or herself. But if you have those guidelines within the journal, we can counter them back. Thank you for that.
The next question we have is from Batul Fuawer, who is joining us from SMBBMU in Larkana. She asks, what distinguishes an excellent peer review from an average one, and what skills should new reviewers develop first?
Excellent question. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I'll answer the second part first. What skills you need, how you can make your review better. There are so many, particularly for peer review, certifications from Elsevier. They're free of cost. If you want, I'll share the links with Dr. Roxana at some time, and she can probably share it with you. Those are self-paced, and they guide you into the review process. They give you examples. You can go through those examples, and then you can make your own review better. I will give you one tip that has helped me over the years for doing a review. Keep a very open mindset when you're doing a review. Please remember, people coming from different parts of the world have a completely different way of writing, different way of expressing. So we cannot judge it from one perspective of what we know. So we need to increase our horizons while we do the review. The second part, how can we better be from an average to an excellent one? To be excellent, you need more experience. So with more experience, you'll become better. But one rule of thumb, please be specific in your reviews. Your reviews should have a value. If you're writing it just to tick off the box, it will remain average in nature. So if you're also learning from that paper, you've read it enough, you know about it, you have taken this exercise to learn from it, definitely that is the road to excellence. Thank you for that.
The next question we have is from a lot of participants, so I'll just summarize those into one. With the increasing use of AI tools such as ChatGPT for language editing and drafting, as well as using them to grammar check your own writing, how can we ensure that it does not get flagged as AI? And how do reviewers distinguish between responsible AI-assisted writing from ensure academic integrity?
Good point. I must see this. Even the journals, the reviewers, the editors, and I'll flag the editors more here, they really are learning along the way. Like I said, AI is not something which is too new. The implementation of AI is new. So what is happening over here is that the journals are also learning along the way. How can the editors make that differentiation? Disclosure. Disclosure is your single most important, your own, let's say, weapon against them telling you something. So before any reviewer or the editor comes with this comment that you have used AI tool, you can simply mention what AI tool you have used. Like I mentioned to you, Grammarly is an AI tool, very commonly used for non-native speakers. For non-native speakers, obviously, with experience, we want to ensure that we are putting our best foot forward. So disclosure is your single most important reason why you can say that, yes, I've used it and for these purposes. For any other comment, if the reviewers see your that you have come forward and you have already disclosed, that definitely creates a more trust factor for the reviewer. So it is important that you disclose that. And also, while you are reviewing your article, please, let's say we are 4 collaborators, we must read the entire manuscript, make sure that we understand that, remove redundancies. Believe me, and I'm sure that you all would resonate with this, AI has a habit of repeating and making things redundant. Remove the redundancies. Write it in your own words. Then polish as needed. But please don't start a manuscript using an AI tool, even if the idea is your own. The differentiation, if you ask me how they can differentiate, it is quite difficult to do that. But if you're reading over and over again, you as a faculty member, as a teacher, can differentiate without any tool whether this is written by you, by your student, or this is written by some AI help. Now, AI help should not always be taken negatively. There are 4 main things that I just mentioned about the AI support, which means that you are using to correct your grammar. It means you are using to find people with the same expertise. Maybe you are finding it for image correction. So there are so many good uses of AI, and you can always mention that. But there is a thin line. There is no definitive answer for that as we grow into this AI field much more. But please make sure that you're disclosing it. Having your own checklist is important. Yeah.
The next question we have is again from a lot of participants who are asking, what are some of the most important things to make sure that you're not doing in order to ensure you're making as less mistakes as you can before submitting to a journal and to increase your chances of getting that acceptance?
Excellent. I will tell you what I do, and that has been helpful to me, and I hope that can be something of value to you. When you write a manuscript and you have particular journals in mind, but let's say that you have now chosen this one journal that you are going to put, you're getting ready, your research, you think that this, is going to add so much value. I'm going to put into this journal because the scope of this journal matches my research, their priorities matches my research. Then go to that journal's guidelines, review that print that they have written in a short font for you to understand what they are demanding. If you do that and make your manuscript according to that, your chances definitely increase in getting the acceptance. Even if it is not accepted, the kind of response you're going to get as a review can help build your manuscript into something better for another journal. So please make sure you know what the journal requires. Not knowing what the journal requires is going to put you into a spot that might end up not having the most polished and the most brilliant or outstanding manuscript. So that could be my first point that I would look into.
It seems that we are to the end of our questions. And Asma, once again, it was a delight to listen to your talk, and you made it so simple, so clear. I'm sure it was very helpful to our 500 plus participants. We are very thankful for their patience for moving along with this. And we'll keep bothering you everywhere, and keep healthy. Don't.
Sure, absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
last time you couldn't join us and we really missed you. So thank you so much, Asma. God
Thank you
bless.
so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you for the entire I think there were 600 plus at one point of time members there. I really appreciate your time, your efforts, and of course, Dr. Roxana, thank you so much for inviting me once again. And I will be definitely looking forward to many more, and all the best and congratulations once again.
Thank you so much. It's all due
Thanks a
to
lot.
experts like you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.